Hey, what's up, everyone? This is once again Derek Sharp. We're here live on Blab for the Creative Hustle podcast episode, I believe 7 or 8. I might have to check on that. I know we took a couple of weeks off there. Not to say that my hustle wasn't ready to go on these shows, but honestly, folks, when I do these, I try to maximize and try to bring you guys value content that you guys can use in your everyday life. And a couple of weeks ago, I was looking to schedule some people in, and I told myself I could come in here. I could be an open mic. I could have different people coming in here, and we could talk about things. But I rather put off a couple of weeks and bring you quality content like our guest today, Mr. Ross Simmonds, is a interesting character. You guys are going to hear all about him and his different endeavors in the digital strategy, digital marketing, I guess is his official title. And we'll dip here a little bit more with Ross and what Ross's day-to-day looks like and what Ross is all about in here in a sec, folks. For those of you who want to keep up with us, because I don't keep a normal schedule when these recordings are going to come on, I just kind of go with what the guest of the week has available. You can follow me on Twitter, dsharpdesigns. That's the best way to keep in touch. I definitely tweet those out. And folks, I know we're a bit pressed on time. We're starting a little bit late. Thank you guys for joining us. We did have some technical issues, and hopefully you guys will see that we're live and will come in and join us and really get the pad and pencil ready, because we've got a lot of info to throw at you here in the next hour. Folks, without further ado, I do have Ross Simmonds, and thank you, Ross, for joining us. This is going to be a fun time, man.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me on, Derek. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and sharing some insights that I've learned over the last few years about digital marketing and technology as a whole. It should be fun.
So your official title, is if anyone does a Google search on you, shows up with digital marketing strategist. You have a really nifty website that pretty much explains it to it all. I could go on. Your founder and content creator, the subscription service Hustle and Grind is how I know you. The Crate software is something I've been dipping into here the last couple of days. It's really helpful. But in a couple of words, I'm gonna put you on the spot here and say in 10 words, who is Ross Simmonds?
Who am I? 10 words. Ross Simmonds is a curious individual who likes to create things. That's what I would say.
That works. And, in these day and ages where everyone goes to these marketing events and pitches themselves, I find that, you could have filled that with catchwords and with different phrases, and it could have sounded really impressive. But, I feel like sometimes those words are overused. I feel like those words are a lot of fluff.
Sure.
And most times when people hear that, you just walk away going, well, who exactly was that guy and what did he do? Like, the big title, sometimes, I could really get into my title of graphic designer. I specialize in print and web marketing, and all that stuff sounds great. But I'm Derek, and I'm here to help out people. Hopefully through this podcast, we can motivate and show people that, without getting into my entire backstory, that, anyone can achieve anything they want, just with a little hustle and a little hard work and what really your priorities set, you can achieve pretty much anything. And I feel like, that's the vibe we kind of throw off here. A lot of people are in the same situation as I was when I came across, not only, Crate, but your companies and what you do is really like, where can I get my company to where, Ross is at, or, the companies that you work with are at. So it's, all the tips I can get, by watching you, by watching, the different, keynotes and stuff that you've done that are online. And then, picking your brain on stuff. You're a person I find it's pretty approachable. I mean, you can tweet at you, you can get at you, you can bug him in emails, and he's pretty good at responding. So is your business partner there with the Hustle and Grind Co. Is another guy that's I hope to get on this soon. He's another one that's willing to help out. You send him an email. He's a very approachable person. So that alone draws people to you, I feel. Right. And then, what you guys are doing with both the coffee subscription service and in yourself with Grind, it's speak a little bit about that app and where the thought on that one and where the thought of the box subscription service came about.
Right. So Hustle and Grind is a company that me and my co-founder Finlay Hilchey created. It's a coffee subscription service where we, as much as we offer people coffee from a subscription standpoint, we offer people more than just that. We offer a community where people who are striving to become better entrepreneurs, who are striving to kind of find their own way, develop their own businesses, whether it's a side hustle or it's a full-time hustle, they're out there trying to create their own path. And what we do is we try to give them the fuel and the tools that will allow them to accomplish that. The fuel would be what we would consider the coffee. The tools would be anything from the ebooks that we're offering people from on our website, the content that we're writing on our blog on hustleandgrind.com. And there's a handful of resources that we're constantly trying to deliver value to people. When I first got started in entrepreneurship, I was probably 14 years old, living in my parents' basement, had Wi-Fi and away. And that was really where it all got started. I was interested in this thing called entrepreneurship. I knew the internet was going to be something that could really take off. And I started with a Google search. I went on Google. I started to research what people were doing all over the world as it relates to entrepreneurship. And I started to find more and more information about how to get started. And this was when I was very young. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to be that go-to place for entrepreneurs, regardless of where you're from, what your background is, what you look like, and offer them with the information and insights that they need to really take their business to the next level. And that's where the idea around Hustle and Grind kind of developed. We threw in the coffee because we're both big fanatics of coffee. I probably go through about 3 or 4 cups a day. And that was just like icing on the cake. We know that entrepreneurs need that fuel to keep going. Nootropics are another way that you can kind of keep your mind at another level, but coffee was our entry point. We're looking into a variety of different things now to kind of keep things going and just helping people become better entrepreneurs and be successful in their endeavors.
Yeah, and it, like I said, that's what originally drew me to you guys. Like I did a Twitter search, and I was trying to reach out to see what other things come up when you hashtag with hustle when I started the podcast, and that was on the top of the list. And then, like I said, I dug what you guys were doing, and then I messaged you and I was like, hey, I dig what you guys are doing, and that's, I think. I was in a blab the other day, and the topic was what's stopping you, and I find that I asked myself, not so much now, but before this last couple of years, what's stopping you from, and then you fill in the blank. And could it be, career and whatever you want to do, or even even trying to reach somebody on Twitter that you might never think that you could talk to, or enter that person's space, but through social media, through looking up things, and I get pretty frustrated because I'm a member of a couple of different Facebook groups, and these people come in and they ask these questions, and I'm like, have you ever heard of Google? Like, you can just Google half the stuff that you guys are asking about. It's not that hard. It's, hey, if you really want to know something, Google it, look into it. There's YouTube videos for just about everything in this world. But yeah, it's the coffee perked my interest. I'm like, okay, we all drink coffee. It's definitely, it's definitely something, but it's a lot more than just a coffee. Like I said, you've got the different e-courses and, stuff like the merchandise and other things that, how is the subscription based business been working for you guys? I mean, I'm sure, there are maybe some slower months.
Really well. Right. Yeah, no, it's been going really well. We have seen the majority of our sales coming in through the product. So I didn't mention a lot about this, but we also sell t-shirts, we sell posters, coffee mugs and things like that with inspirational quotes and stuff like that. And that has been the primary sales. And I attribute a lot of the success that we've had from a hustle and grind perspective to our efforts around Instagram. Our Instagram account has more than 75,000 followers now. We've been able to build up a significant following, and we've been able to do that by investing in 2 things. The first thing that we invested heavily in and that we wouldn't stray away from was an investment in quality content. A lot of people go on Instagram and you can see the content that is being distributed, and in many ways it's a lot of Me Too content. The content looks very much like every other account. It's not differentiated. You can switch out the logo and it would look like everybody else's content. When we launched, we knew that we wanted to stand out. We knew that we needed to be different from everybody else in this industry. And the way that we did that was we invested in creating content that was individually illustrated, every single piece that was very specific to the topic of that post. So every single post that we were developing in the early days, over the time, we've started to kind of do some tests with just basic text versus illustration. But early on, you can look at our content and you can see that it's pure 100% illustration, very unique, very different, not just taking a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio and putting a quote on top of it. We invested in creating individual pieces of content that would resonate with entrepreneurs and people who had that freedom mindset. The second thing that we did that allowed us to kind of generate significant amount of results was investing in relationships. So a lot of people think very transactional in business. And I think that when you start to think about relationships as being more than just a transaction and being more of an authentic connection where you can establish friendships and partnerships and collaboration, that's when the magic starts to happen. And what we were able to do is we were able to identify people who were like-minded as us, such as Rich 20-something on Instagram, Founder Magazine. We were able to build relationships with them that were not built off of fluff. It was built off of a true appreciation for each other's work. Building a connection, establishing a relationship, and then growing together. So when we're putting up posts, we would give them a shout out. If they're putting up a post, they would give us a shout out. And then we would grow our followings together versus just going at this from a one-off perspective. So the investment in content that is high quality was one of the biggest ways that we were able to drive frequent sales to our site. And then on the flip side of that, investing in those relationships to ensure that we have people around us who are like-minded, who are ambitious, that are willing to hustle and really put in the work. And I found that throughout all of my efforts, whether you're talking about just my own individual career as a consultant, which was my primary job for the past 3+ years. As an independent consultant before that, I did stints with agencies as well. But again, the focus has always been on creating quality content and nurturing those relationships. So you have to look at the content that you're putting out there as something that you're contributing to the world. And if you can make the world better by writing this piece of content, sharing this piece of content, and people connect with it, then you're going to see results because of that. So I've always lived by putting out as much value into the world as I can. And I've also lived by this whole idea of building quality relationships. So when you say I'm very accessible online and on Twitter and on email, that's what I want. I love hearing that because that's what I strive to be. I want to be somebody who's open for conversations that can provide people with help. And if it's going to take me less than 2 minutes to give somebody an answer, I definitely will try to do that.
Yeah, and it's like you said, especially on Instagram, like it's gotten to a point where I can notice I see the photo before I even see the name, and I know it's one of your right. posts there. So that's you awesome. Kind of want that, and that's how it's working. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people that might be checking this out. Like I said, either live on iTunes or live in Blab here or iTunes and Stitcher later on during the week, but that are going to be asking themselves, and I ran across this myself for a bit. They're telling themselves, why would people listen to what I have to say? Like, they have that attitude towards like, I'm not established. And, I up until a couple of years ago, I felt the same way. And I'm just like, I just have to do it. Like, you just have to put it out there.
Right.
But, a lot of people look at stuff like that, like Instagram, and see the numbers and, everyone wants those numbers. I feel, if I have, like, I don't know, last time I checked, I'm close to 300 on Instagram. And I feel the same way with Twitter, that if I have 300, and then not to say that I'm ever going to have an ebook or a course, but if I ever do, if that connection with the 300 gets me, 280 sales off that item, I'd rather go deep than have this this huge number. And I feel that way about Twitter. Everyone focuses so much on the number. I have 3,000 subscribers. I have this and that, but I feel like like you said, the connection. Because of my clients are on a monthly, and it's not. They run monthly events. I have that connection with them. I've been working with some clients for close to 2-3 years now, and it's always we handle business, but I always like to close our conversation with hey, how are you? How's the family? How are things going at home? Like that connection. And it's at a point before Facebook got all screwed with the algorithms, and my page wasn't getting as much reach as it was before. Like my word of mouth
Right.
advertisement was great. It's
Right.
it's that word. Ross tells his friends, hey, check out Derek, what Derek's doing. Like, you can't put a price tag on
Exactly.
that, man. You just can't.
No. Yeah, 100%. It's true. Yeah, no, you're spot on. I think at the end of the day, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers. Like you can say, oh, I only have 1,000 followers on Twitter. I only have 1,000 followers on Instagram. But what you really need to do is think about like it's quality over quantity. If you have 1,000 people following you on Twitter, but only two of them are listening, then it doesn't really matter. If you have 50 people on Twitter that are following you, and all 50 of those people are truly engaged and care about the message that you're spreading, that's more valuable than that 1,000 person with two. So you really have to remember that when you're kind of creating your community and building your audience up. And I think a lot of people get strayed and kind of lose sight of that. And I think it's so important that you embrace the fact that your numbers have to be looked at very carefully, and you have to understand what's actually relevant and who's engaging with your stuff.
Yeah, and I tell people the story, and they are shocked that I actually tell the story. But December of 2014, it was actually Christmas. I came across a video on YouTube, and it was Chase Jarvis was interviewing Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'd never heard of the
Right.
guy before. And I followed the interview, and I checked it out a couple times in a row, and I was like, it started to sink in. And my new goal for 2015 was going to be to really have a presence on social media. And the quote unquote expert that I had talked to beforehand, before all that, suggested that I went in and bought some Twitter likes and some Twitter followers. And
Right.
so if you went to my account, December of 2014, I had 18,000 people following me. And
Oh, wow.
after listening to Gary and what he had to say, and I was like, there's no reach to this. All these little egg
Right.
fake profiles are never going to get me anywhere. And I spent the
No.
next 2 weeks, a good 6 or 7 hours a day, hand deleting each one of these people to teach
Right.
myself a lesson. And a lot of people tell me, one, after I'm done with the story, they're like, I would have never admitted to that. But
Yeah.
I got it back down to a decent 40 of my actual friends that were following me, and I've been able
Right.
to build it up since then. But like I said, everyone focuses on numbers. Everyone focuses on dollar bills as well. Like, everybody
Right.
wants to reach this money level, and they want the bling bling, and then the watches and the houses and the cars. And I always tell them, and they probably just brush me off, man, because I'm nowhere near that level. But I always tell them, you put out the
Right.
good work, you put out the good content, and the money's going to come.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I think that's the key is going to be at the end of the day. If you constantly are committed to delivering value to people, then you'll see the results. Like I think for myself, in an example, is I invested what did it have been last year? I think it might have been the year before last. So I invested heavily into SlideShare, which is a social network for presentation decks. So invested heavily, hired a designer, said, let's invest heavily into creating resources that provide people with value. So we created the ultimate guide to Instagram. We created the ultimate guide to Snapchat before Snapchat was what it is today. We created all of these resources for people, and today they have over 1 million views. The reason why they were able to kind of take off is because I invested in making sure that this content was of high quality. Because of those decks, because of those resources that I created, I've been able to speak at conferences all over the world. I've been able to get clients from everywhere, from across the US to Canada to the UK. And the reason why is because I made that investment in ensuring that the content that I created was high quality. And I think that at the end of the day, regardless of what industry you're in, if you can make that focus on developing content, developing pieces of resources that people would want to print off or that people will want to save and come back to for a long period of time, they will see you as an expert. And when they see you as an expert, then you're more likely to reap the benefits long term. And I think that that's the key. And that's been one of my biggest wins, has been making that investment and making that commitment into high valuable content. So I think if I could give a takeaway for anyone, it would be recognize that content is the foundation of the web. Content as a whole is the backbone of the web. When you go to Twitter, what are you consuming? You're consuming content. When you go to Facebook and you're seeing all of these different videos of people making recipes, or all of these different videos with recaps of the Oscars, that's content. So if you're in an industry and you're trying to penetrate it, whether you're a yoga teacher, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're a plumber, you can create content that is so valuable, that is so insightful, that people will pass it along. And when you can do that, you're able to have your brand associated with that content. That content is valuable, so people are going to associate value with your name, and then they're going to distribute that amongst their peers and amongst their friends. And I think that's where the money will follow. Because we live in a global world. Like, the internet connects people from all over. I'm in Canada right now. You're in the States, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And we're connected over this crazy thing called Blab, having a conversation, and people are watching. And I think that that's the power of the internet. And with that comes a lot of responsibility to ensure that the content that you're distributing and developing is high quality.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, it's, if you're a yoga instructor, there's nothing that says you can't come to Blab and give yoga advice, or, do some kind of content to where, you set yourself apart in your field. And because you've been, doing yoga for 10 years, then you know what you're talking about. And that's, it's kind of what, spurred me onto this. Like, I was in a Blab, and the guy was like, you talk a lot. And, I took it as a compliment. I was like, yeah, I do talk a lot, to think about it. And and he asked me too, he's like, do you have a podcast? Do you have something where you're in the speaking, medium? And I'm like, no. And being creative, that just set a seed in my mind. And I literally, went to Amazon and ordered the mic, and I looked into doing a podcast, and actually, there's a friend of mine that's in this room right now, Kevin. I talked to Kevin about it. He does a podcast, and he's like, yeah, go for it. And I could have sat back and could have researched and could have, looked at, keywords and what else, who else in my field is trying to do a podcast about creative hustle and whatnot. And I literally was like, okay, I'm going to send a message out to a friend of mine and be like, can I get you on the show? And he was like, yeah. And we just went from there. And, it was funny because I started this in December, and a lot of people were like shutting down for the year, and they didn't want to do the interview. They were like, get to me the first of the year, and I was like, it's December, like I'm still trying to hustle. I'm here on on Thanksgiving, trying to get people to come in for this, and it's really a 24/7 type world, like.
For sure. And you had some great guests on. You had Everett on here a while back. I think I seen, who's awesome. He's killing it on social media.
He's
so
definitely
at the end of the day, yeah. So just keep investing and finding great people, and you'll see the benefits long term.
Yeah, and it's in this 24/7 world, it's like, if you're not doing it, someone else is, and that's the hustle mindset. It's the putting forth the effort and not spending time now in the long run is going to pay off. Like, I have my best friend's from Australia, and he came to visit, and he's like, let's go, and he was here for 2 weeks this time, so it wasn't a long stay like he usually is, but he's like, let's go do this and this and that and that. And I'm like, you don't get it. I don't leave the house, man. Like, I'm like, and this is by choice. I'm not to say like I don't leave the house. Like, I have my clients and I have my work, and it's not that, it's this. And, if it's not that, it's engaging on Twitter. I have not yet to automate my tweets yet. I love Twitter. I love to be me on Twitter. So
I love Twitter too. I will say one of the channels that I've been using recently for Twitter has been the combination, shameless plug here, of Crate and Buffer. And with Crate and Buffer, the combination allows you to kind of be more productive as it relates to your time. So if you are looking to build up your presence on Twitter and you combine these two channels, getcrate.co, buffer.com, what you're able to do is you're able to schedule content to go out in advance, and you're also able to have recommendations around the articles that you're receiving. So content curation, which is the act of finding content similar to like a museum curator or art gallery curator who goes out and finds different pieces that they want to have displayed at an art gallery or at a museum. Content curation is the same thing, but for marketers or anybody who has an online presence. So for me, because my story is constantly about marketing or constantly about entrepreneurship, I use Crate, a tool that's built around content curation, to find content and articles that are relevant and trending that will be about those topics. From there, I can schedule them to go out over the course of the week, and that ultimately allows me to invest more time on other things. For you, you're in the world of graphic design. You type in graphic design, you plug in a few things like Smashing Magazine, Crate will spit back all of the best articles on those topics. So you can easily share that content over the course of the entire week and save yourself a bunch of time. So I do think there's a role for automation. Even with Instagram, like there's a tool called Instagress that allows you to automatically like photos on Instagram. I strongly recommend that people check that out. There is an option within it that allows you to auto comment too. And I strongly recommend that you don't go down that road unless you start to kind of be very niche with your targeting, because what you could do is if you're auto commenting on anybody that does a hashtag love life, and then somebody puts up a photo and it's like, I miss my grandmother, love life, and you're hashtagging great photo or something like that, that's really awkward. So you don't want to go down that vein. I would always recommend setting up the auto likes, but auto comments on Instagram is bad news bears. There's a lot of cool channels out there that can definitely be used to help take your Instagram account to the next level.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm definitely now that your glitch is taken care of with Crate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna set it up, and then it was like and I love the feature that your little picture shows up on the side, and it's like, we're having issues right now, and I'm like, that's really cool. That he's virtually not there, but he's there, and he's letting me know that we're having issues right now. So definitely have to go check that out, folks. For and like I said, on Twitter, it's spontaneous. Twitter's a fast moving community, and for me to be able to hop in and I really would like to think that I don't take my Twitter as serious. Like it's not all business. Like I like to go in and joke around. I made the graphic of Leo yesterday, and I made the offer that if he doesn't win, he can come on the podcast and talk about it. Yeah, and, little things like that. Like
I think for sure, you have to be able to show a little bit of your personality. Like during the football season, you look at my Twitter account, I'm going to be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles a lot. And the reason why is because that's what I like. I like my Eagles, although they don't like me. I tend to follow them religiously, and I will tweet during the games. And I think that you need to find that blend, because people follow people, right? Like they don't follow just a robot that's constantly sending out a bunch of links and has this agenda. And the same is true for Instagram. The same is true for Facebook. You have to show people what is behind the scenes. Who is this person, right? Like, what's this person all about? What do they enjoy? What type of things are they doing on the weekend? You need to provide people with that type of insight, or they're going to think that you're a robot. So you need to invest time in showing people who's behind the scenes, what you're all about. Be authentic, and don't be afraid to tweet if you're watching the Fuller House marathon on the weekend. Netflix rolls out that if you're binge watching Fuller House, don't be afraid to put that up on Instagram.
We had
show that there's a person behind the account.
Yeah, we had Kevin here on the side was asking about the URL. There it is. All right. It's I found it with Twitter. Like the thing I like about you and in the Hustle and Grind company. I see the tweets. I know some of them might be automated or some not, and for the fact that you guys actually reply back or give it a nod, give it a like that shows that it's a person behind the company. Like I had to unfollow a lot of companies that I respect and that I really wished I could follow, because all they're doing is pumping out content. And then if, I do have a question like, hey, this was a great article, I have a question, and never get a reply back. And that.
Right. And yeah, that'll turn you off. I think a lot of people, forget that there's other people on the other side of this thing, and social media isn't built to be a one-way communication tool. Like it's not built to be used like a billboard. A billboard screams at you, tells you its message, you consume it, you walk away, and you continue with your life. With social media, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be a conversation. So if I'm putting up a piece of content, I don't just want you to consume it. I want you to comment back to me. I want you to respond. I want to have a conversation with you. And that's where the magic starts to happen, because a relationship starts to develop. If we put up a post on Instagram, often we'll put up a post and it's like, what's your goal for September? Or what's your goal for January? And then people from all over the world will comment with their goal. What they don't know is that at the end of the month, we're going to go back and we follow up and say, did you accomplish this goal? And we've done that with every single post that we've done on that topic. And people always write back and they're like, wow, I didn't expect you to actually follow up. And that's where the magic happens, because people really appreciate the fact that you're a human on the other side, instead of this corporate entity that's just trying to yell and push a message down the other person's voice. So it's so important that you invest the time in responding, having those conversations. It's very easy to get away with just tapping that like if somebody asks you a question on Twitter. But I would challenge you to actually respond back, see what they thought. I oftentimes, if I see somebody share one of my articles that I've written online, I'll tweet at them and I'll say, thanks for sharing. What did you think? Because I
Yeah.
want to know what they thought. I want to hear their thoughts on what my crazy ideas are surrounding content marketing. So what do you think about that? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? I want to have a conversation. And I think that that's really important.
And I'm sure on the back end, not to get too far in the business aspects of things, I'm sure you take notice of the ones that work and the ones that don't work, and want to gear your content more to what people are digging with feedback and with
Yeah,
likes. So, I mean, it helps out.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I'm obsessed with psychology and testing. Like ridiculously obsessed. I took psychology when I was in university. I almost did it as like a minor. My major is in marketing, but I loved my psychology courses. But since I've graduated and since I've been on my own for the past few years, I've read more psychology articles than I did in all of university. And the reason why is because I just love humans and I love the way that we think, and I think that we're very unique in how we interact with content and what lures us to engage with things. So what I tend to do is if we put up a post on Instagram, I try to understand the psychology behind why people are engaging with certain things. I try to understand why people are more likely to share a certain article or why they're more likely to tag a friend in that post. So when you get into the core of why people tick and what makes us tick, I think that's where some magic starts to happen. So
Yeah, and
I do test a lot.
yeah, and it's definitely like I've noticed a thing lately where people won't take the time to unsubscribe from a spam email or an email they might not like. They'll just keep sending it to the
Right.
trash. And I'm like,
Right.
take the extra second to. Can you not be bothered to unsubscribe? Like,
Right. Yeah.
would you rather do it the other way? I'm actually.
Yeah.
I have to give you a sec here. Hold 1 sec.
No worries.
So yeah, like I said, you can't be bothered 1 sec to like uninstall the or unfollow the message, the email, and whatnot. Like, the human behavior is a very interesting topic. We could probably talk a whole blab about that. One question I did
Yeah.
want to get out of the way. Very interesting here. What does your typical day look like?
Right. So I would say that no day typically looks the same. They are always
Fair
different.
point.
Something comes up and it throws my day a different way, but I do tend to have a bit of structure. Some of my daily habits that I try to constantly do is I start my days with a coffee, and my coffee consists of oil and natural ghee. I throw that into a blender, mix it up. It creates a frothy deliciousness. At this point, I've still not opened up my email. I haven't checked Twitter. I haven't checked Instagram. I enjoy my coffee by myself. Do some light reading, go to one of my favorite newsletters or ebooks or something like that, consume some content just to get myself rolling. Then from there, again, I do not check my email. I dive into my to-do list and I start identifying what it is that I need to accomplish that day, and then start checking items off. From there, I start to probably around 11 o'clock, I'll check my actual inbox, see what's going on, respond, get all of those things done, kicked out of the way, have some meetings over the course of the day as well. Towards lunchtime, I'll grab a bite. Sometimes it's with people, meeting up and grabbing coffee and stuff like that, or it's in front of my computer grabbing some food and eating there. In the afternoon, typically getting back on the hustle, making things happen, whether that's writing blog posts, jumping on Skype calls, doing interviews, creating content, managing product for Crate, a variety of different things. Towards the end of the day, around 5 to 6, the wife comes home. We have dinner together, hang out, might do some light work, chat with her a bit. Then from there, I typically try to get a workout in, go to the gym or go to yoga, come back, get back on the grind, handle some of the outstanding tasks, tackle any emails that have come through, and then go to bed after doing a little bit more reading, probably around 11 o'clock to midnight.
Sounds like a pretty manageable life work balance.
Yeah, it's a pretty structured one. My Wednesdays tend to be what I call wired in Wednesday. I don't take close to any calls. I don't take any meetings. It's completely me, headphones in, coffee being consumed, listening to some old school hip hop, and just getting things done. So wired in Wednesdays are.
I like that, and that's another thing that people they don't seem that they realize that. Like there are times where it's I can I have the structure in my mind and I know where I should be and what I can allow myself extra time to do. Like I have this is scheduled for an hour. I have the leeway to go a little bit longer if I need to. At the same time, like it might seem like my structure isn't there, but it actually is. Much like this interview, like I have a few questions I want to ask. And then there are the luxuries of being able to just have a conversation with Ross and people being here and checking out what we're doing. But yeah, no, it's like I said, they don't realize that there is a time where I do have to unplug and put the headphones in and and actually do the projects and get the work done. I could like in the end of the day, like the work is what makes me the money, and I have to do that. Right. So talking a bit about that, a question I like to ask people is if you think the hustle and the mindset is something that is in your DNA, or is it something that is time management and is something that you could actually take a course and learn?
Right. I think that I think there's two elements of hustle, right? Like there's two elements. One part of it is 100% in you, right? Like not everybody has it. And that's when it comes down to like endurance, fatigue, being tired, unable to kind of actually function at that level consistently. And I think that that's just something that different people can't do. If you're somebody who's got some health issues, you can't knock somebody because they have health issues and they can't work ridiculous amounts of time, right? Like that's legit physical, sometimes mental things that stop people from being able to accomplish that. On the flip side, there's the ability that I would say is completely trainable and learnable around the hustle is understanding what it is that you want to accomplish, making sure that you actually know what you want to accomplish, because I think a lot of people hustle for the sake of hustling, and I'm not a fan of that. You have to know why you're hustling. And once you have that identification of this is why I'm chasing this goal, then you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Like not everybody needs to work 50, 60 hours a week. I don't think that that's even sustainable, but I think that what you can do is if you find something that you're passionate about, those 50 hours a week aren't going to feel like work. They're going to feel like you're just going through the motions of life and you're just doing things that you want to do. So if you know what you want and you know what you're trying to build and you know what you're trying to leave this world like, then it's no longer work and it's just you moving towards your dream and moving towards something that you're passionate about. And I think that that is something that everybody can find. Everyone can find what it is that's worth working for, something that they're passionate about, that gets them excited. And I think that can be trained. You might not be able to put in the crazy amount of hours that the next guy does. You might not be as smart as the next girl. But what you can do is identify something that you want and work relentlessly as hard as you've got and as hard as you can to kind of turn that dream into a reality. And I think that that's what fuels the majority of people with that true authentic hustle.
Yeah. And it's definitely, we're definitely on the same wavelength. When the alarm goes off at 6, if, it's easy to hit the snooze. It's we can all hit the snooze, but like a part of me just is I'm too like, hey, I have to get this done. There are people depending on me because I do print web advertising. These events that I'm associated with aren't going to get promoted the right way or with enough time to really make a difference to the attendance if I don't have X, Y, and Z by this time tomorrow. So exactly. It's a part of me is like I could hit snooze, but that's my name and my ass on the line. Like I have to get to work. Sure. So that's that's in a person. Timetable with scheduling and all that. I feel like can be you can be taught time management. You can be taught to stay away from Facebook and Twitter because you have to have shit done. Like don't get in the YouTube video never ending loophole there. So it's definitely a bit of both. I think that I do think that hustle gets thrown around a lot on occasions when it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's true.
And
there's definitely a glorification of it.
Yeah, and I'm a bit older. Like I didn't even know until I watched that video with Chase and Gary that that was a thing. I'll turn 41 in May, and I just thought it was just
Right.
working. I just thought it's just
Right.
you don't complain about it. You just you work, and if you want to change your situation, get up and find a better job, or just do your work and stop complaining. But
Yeah.
like I said, I don't feel like what I do is work. If anyone who follows me on
Right.
Instagram or my Facebook page, it's pretty public. It's a private account, but I mean it's a public account, but it's my personal page. I always talk about client projects. It never feels like work. When I got into this, I started with the company in 2012, but the backstory was I was just helping people out with doing their advertising. And it was,
Right.
when the company closed, I was like, I could just do this on my own and help out others.
Cool.
And so it never felt like work. It's projects and it's fun. And because I think of that mentality and mindset, like I'm okay with putting in 18 hours a day. Like I'm okay with a project having to be done on Monday and I turned it in on Saturday. Like
Right.
that overachieving, because it's a challenge. It's a personal challenge. Hey, let me see if I can outdo the last one. Let me see if I can, do something that's going to draw someone's eye when they're walking by on the street. And be able to turn their head and go,
Right.
"What's that? Let me take a look at that." And then
Yeah.
you get the benefits in the long run when you get a message and your flyer is hanging in the mall in Australia. When your work's
Right.
at Lollapalooza and Riot Fest, and you're just like, wow, that's really cool. So,
Right.
that's those
Exactly.
benefits are there, and it's always a good time. Let's see, we're at we got 10 till, but let's go ahead and throw a couple questions here. One, I'd like to take away from a bit from what my scheduled questions were, and shoot maybe two or three couple of tips for keys that you think are key to winning social media, so to speak. I also feel like maybe too many people are trying to use a platform that they're not comfortable with. I don't know if you feel that way
Mm-hmm.
on some extents. People that are wanting to do YouTube videos but are kind of nervous and not someone you'd really put in front of a camera, but they're still forcing themselves to do because someone told them that YouTube is where it's at.
Right.
So I feel like
Yeah.
stay natural. If you're comfortable with a platform, stick to it. But what would you say are some of the keys?
For sure. So I think there's two things here. So my first piece around kind of using channels that you're comfortable with, I think that everybody's a beginner, right? Like if you first start, you're a beginner. And when you're first doing it, when I first started writing, when I first started making slide decks, I was a beginner and I was an amateur. So my content wasn't that great. So I don't think that people should not use a channel just because they're nervous or just because they're not exactly great at it yet. I think that what's going to happen over time, even if you look at like the early stage of Tim Ferriss's podcast, if you look at Joe Rogan and his early podcasts, they're not great. They became great over time because they started to put in the time and they put in the effort. And I think that that's the reality of all of these channels. When you look at something like Snapchat, the channel is so new that not a lot of people know what's going on. Not a lot of people know how to use it effectively. So by jumping into these channels and using them early days, you're going to have some rust. People aren't going to be that savvy. They're not always going to be great. But over time, by putting in the hours, I think that you can be successful on those channels, regardless of whether we're talking about Snapchat, Periscope, Twitter, Blab, YouTube, Pinterest, you name it. When it comes to social media and some of the keys that I think are important, I always go back to start by understanding why people share. And that's something that I think that a lot of people don't invest time into. But there's a book created by Jonah Berger out of, I think it's University of Pennsylvania. And he talks about the psychology around why we share. And some of those reasons include to define ourselves to others, to provide value to others, to provide entertainment to other people. We share content because we want to get the word out about a cause or a brand we believe in. All of those different things, I think, are the reasons why we share. And when we're creating our content, we need to have those in the back of our mind. Once you understand the psychology around why people share your content, you're more likely to create share-worthy content and ultimately have your brand in your stories shared more frequently. The second thing that I would say is very important as it relates to content is rejecting the idea that content is king. And I know that that's a contrarian approach. A lot of people are like, what does he mean by that? But I do not believe that content is king. I think that a lot of people who have 20 followers on Twitter, have 50 followers on their blog, have 0 subscribers on their newsletters, are creating great content every single day. And the reason why their content isn't reaching the masses is because they don't have the distribution channels in place that will allow their content to reach a bunch of people. We've all been there. We write a blog post, we invest a bunch of hours into it, we invest a bunch of time, we press publish, we share it on our Facebook, and nothing happens. We expect it to have a ding in the universe, but it doesn't. You need to continue to invest in quality, valuable content, but you also need to invest in having distribution channels that will allow you to spread your message and spread that story effectively. If you can do that, then you'll win. So invest time in building up a newsletter list, invest time in growing your Twitter account, invest time in building relationships where I can reach out to you and say, hey, Derek, I just wrote this blog post. Would you mind sharing it on your Twitter account? Then you share it, it reaches your audience too. Those are 2 very important pieces. So the psychology and the distribution channels are super important. And then the third one just goes back to what I was talking about earlier about investing in valuable content. You need to go above and beyond in terms of creating valuable content. If you're writing a blog post, Google the topic you're going to write about. Look at the #1 search result. Are you creating a piece of content that's better than the #1 search result? If you're not, then go back to the drawing board and start again. You need to be constantly trying to go above and beyond the status quo. If you're creating an infographic, if you're creating a slideshow, if you're creating a YouTube video, you want to invest in creating content that's better. So for like me, when I'm going on podcasts, when I'm going on to do interviews, I like to watch what other people have said during their episodes and see what the best podcasts were that were ever on your show, and then kind of say, okay, these are the types of insights I need to deliver if I want their following, if I want their listeners to really get value out of it. And then I try to do that. So that's why I've been trying to deliver as many tactical insights as I can, because I know that the best podcasts that I listen to are those that provide me with tactical things that I can go and run away with today.
And definitely, and you know, like you said, it's you know, if in a part of the show, like when I have other non-special celebrity guests like yourself on, you know, I try to have artists and people that are really, you know, doing great stuff, but no one wants to give them any attention, or no one has found the greatness. I've come across so many artists that should be making millions of dollars, and so many people that should be, you know, killing it and crushing it, and you know, it's that whole mentality of I'm just an artist and I'm doing my work, and you know, I just want to, you know, I don't want to mess with social media, and I don't want to mess with accounting or setting up a store or selling my art, you know, it's that type of stuff. So you know, if I can bring them on here and let me do the sharing, and this goes to anyone who's listening, anyone who's in the chat. If you guys are creative entrepreneurs, you have a product or a business and you want to be featured, like get up with me. I will use my resources. I will tweet it out. I'll send Ross a message, be like, this guy is killing it. You need to send this out to the newsletter or something. You know, we'll get you out there. But you know, like I said before that interview that really I keep going back on, really sparked something in me to be like, I need to start making content. I need to get my head out of the clouds and you know, start putting it out on Twitter and start doing these things. You know, like I said, there are a lot of people that are just doing some great stuff, and if I can bring them on and I can share, and you know, people can be aware of this, then you know, like I said, that word of mouth, then it's, you know, hey, I ran across this interview with this artist, and you know, and you never know when it could be someone that could help out your business. You know, like if you're struggling with design work, you know, if you find a great artist, you'd be like, hey, I'm gonna pair up with this person. You know, I'm gonna get a great product out of it. They're gonna get some exposure, and it's gonna be, you know, in the long run, good for everyone. So definitely great tips there, Ross. We actually, I think that's unless there's any questions here on the side, what I do is I'm a sneaky person. If you want to go ahead and drop in your links and where people can contact you, what I do here is I'll end the podcast interview, and then we will record some bonus content for YouTube only. We do a 5 questions with this week. It's gonna be with Ross Simmonds, and we're gonna ask you 5 questions and get your answers in. If you guys want to check that out, you're gonna have to go to my YouTube page. little misdirect. The people that are on the podcast don't get to listen to that, but you can check it out on YouTube. So there are Ross's handles. Make sure to include those in the show notes there on iTunes. RossSimmonds.com. Really slick looking website. We'll give you all the insight about Ross. Definitely check him out on Twitter. The coolest cool. He's like I said, he'll reply back to you. Don't be afraid to ask him questions. Like I said, that's another thing. People they get afraid to ask questions, and I always say it's like, look, you're not getting anything taken away from you by asking the question. Like you're
Sure.
either you get a no or you get your question answered. Don't be afraid. I've tweeted out to celebrities and stuff like that, and I once in a while get a reply back, and I'll be like, oh my god, and I reach the person, and it's a cool moment. You talked about the Eagles. Hopefully they'll have a better year this year. I follow the Denver Broncos, which happened to win the Super Bowl this year. But me and Emmanuel Sanders follows me on Twitter. Great guy.
Nice.
He's tweeted, he's reposted some of my stuff. It's it's awesome time. Packers. I was a Packers fan back in the day, but it's like I said, you can reach anyone. By Twitter, by social media, and you can achieve anything you want if you put in the hours of work and are willing to sacrifice things. So there are all of Ross's contact info, and definitely it was a good time. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties in the beginning. I definitely enjoyed that. Ross, any last words here before we move on to the bonus content?
Just thanks for having me on. I just want to say thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this. It was great to chat with you. I hope everybody was able to take a lot from our conversation and our discussion. And like you said, if anybody does have questions about digital marketing, entrepreneurship as a whole, definitely drop me a line on Twitter at @thecoolestcool. Feel free to also reach out via rossimmonds.com and check out what we're doing with getcrate.co and hustleandgrind.com. Always looking for feedback and people's take.
Awesome, folks. Well, like I said, definitely check this out on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker. It'll be up here on